Billy Meier has taken over 1,000 photographs and a few videos of alien spacecrafts. His case is the one that offers the best evidence regarding UFOs. And this is the most extraordinary photo of a UFO that has ever been taken. Billy photographed this ship a few feet away behind his house on the night of July 28, 1981. It is number 873 in his personal catalogue. Why is it extraordinary? Well, because at that time, Photoshop did not exist, nor did computer tools like the ones we have today that could have faked something like that. And because, when we analyzed it in detail, we came to the conclusion that it is an object that flies. It is 7 meters in diameter. It can vertically extend its central core. It emits luminous orange plasma and a reddish halo. And it is only visible to Meier's camera because it uses a cloaking system. This photo not only shows that UFOs are real, but that they have unique characteristics that our current technology does not have. For example, that of creating an invisibility field around them. In this video, we will show the evidence that leads us to these conclusions and verify that it is not possible that it is a scale model. Skeptics claim that Billy made a small model, 1/2 meter in diameter or less, using the lid of a food container and Christmas ball ornaments. We will also analyze this hypothesis and show that it is not valid. How can we really know the size of a UFO that is photographed? Well, in the years when Billy took photos of them, the only way to fake a large UFO was with the use of scale models. How can we tell if this image shows a small model close to the camera, or if it is a large flying object at a greater distance? To estimate or determine its size, there are indirect methods, such as the one we used to measure the size of this UFO flying in front of Meier's house, which we concluded was about 3.5 meters in diameter, with an error of less than 10%. We analyzed the reflections in the spheres in many ways and have summarized it in 11 experiments that a high school student can do, as we show in this book, Researching a Real UFO. Billy Meier used this camera, an Olympus ECR. It has the focus stuck at infinity, as the initial investigators of this case found. Billy operated it with one hand. The camera selects the aperture and the speed automatically, and it is always focused on infinity. Today we can actually examine his camera again and verify that the focus is still indeed stuck on infinity. What characteristics do these photos that Meier takes have with this particular camera? Well, because it remains focused at infinity, nearby objects are out of focus. Anything closer than 3 meters of distance will always be blurry. So photo number 873 would not look like this, but like this. If it was a 1/2 meter model, it would be 1 meter away from the camera, which would be too close to be seen in good focus. Whereas this photo shows many details of this ship. By doing an analysis of its geometry, as shown in experiment number 11 of our book, we confirm that the central core of this ship can extend vertically for at least a distance equal to 1/2 the diameter of one of its spheres. This would present an additional complexity if this was a model. Billy says this ship glowed at night, emitting golden light. So it is emitting light and not reflecting it from outside lights. We have found abundant evidence indicating that the light flares on the spheres in this UFO photographed at night do not follow a pattern produced by external lights. The reflections of normal lamps look like points of light, not like what we see in these photos. To have such wide reflections would require special photography lights, and these would have to produce golden orange light. And if this were the case, they would have to comply with a rule that reflections must be consistent. This is a simulation that we did by using a computer modeling application. We confirmed that all the spheres show the same pattern, 3 bright areas at the top of each sphere. Analyzing photo number 1000, we found many inconsistencies that do not comply with the theory of a scale model illuminated with special lamps. We can see an example of such inconsistencies in 2 of its spheres that are oriented towards the same side. In the lower sphere, we see 2 bright areas, while the upper sphere has 3. If these spheres were acting as mirrors, they should all reflect about the same image, that is, reflect the lights that are illuminating it. It cannot be a scale model made with Christmas ball ornaments lit by studio lights. Because reflections change from sphere to sphere in night photos in this type of UFO, this supports the theory of a flying ship that radiates a plasma by a mechanism that we do not yet understand in detail, but we do know that large electromagnetic fields are generated. For more than 30 years, details in this photograph were hidden. In some old copies of this photo, we can glimpse a post that appears to be under the UFO. A recent brightness enhancement of this image reveals what is in the environment surrounding this flying object. There is no table or support system to indicate that it is a photo of a scale model. On the contrary, it is determined that this UFO is flying over a field where there is a path and a fence post. The post has a shadow that runs down the slope of a hill. The photo was taken from above. Additionally, a reddish halo is seen around the UFO. So this ship could be emitting orange plasma from its surface and a reddish halo extending upwards. As the post, the terrain below the UFO and the UFO itself are in sharp focus, this indicates that they are at the same distance from the camera, and so we can compare their sizes. Fence posts are typically 1 meter high. So we find that this UFO is 7 meters in diameter. This leads us to conclude that this type of spacecraft with the spheres comes in at least 2 sizes, 3.5 meters in diameter like the one seen in these photos, and the 7 meter diameter of this UFO in the night photos. To make a model of this UFO, it would not be enough to use a small food container lid, but something much larger. Clearly, this is a large flying object. We recently found out, after confirming with Meier, that the photo was taken behind his house. This image shows a recent view from a terrace at the backyard. We see a path and a downhill terrain, very similar to the one in the photo. There are currently trees and shrubs that did not exist in 1981. This is another photo showing the terrace from below, from where the UFO could have been flying. We see an outdoor light up there. Looking at the shadow cast by the fence post, we wonder if it is caused by a camera flash or by the outdoor light. Since we do not see a bright blue flash on the surfaces of the UFO's spheres, we know that a flash was not used. So that shadow is a result of the outdoor light. Our calculations indicate that Billy was located 13 meters away from the center of the UFO, about 5 meters higher from its base, and that the outdoor light was 1 meter and 75 centimeters to Billy's left. The question that arises now is, why does the UFO look so bright, but the surrounding terrain is so dark? If it was a scale model, why was a model made of a landscape below if it was not going to be seen in the photo? And why did the studio not illuminate that landscape? Why, if there were at least 2 lights, only 1 shadow is visible from the pole, and not several shadows? And if it is a 7-meter UFO that radiates light intensely, why doesn't the ground receive that light? The only explanation we can find, based on what Billy Meier says, is that these UFOs have cloaking systems that block the light coming out of them, opening a small window in front of Meier's camera, and only from there is it visible. That explains why Billy was able to walk through public places on various farms, tour them, and take photos of UFOs without anyone else being able to see them. In the case of photo 873 taken at night in 1981 behind Meier's house, if there had been a curious person walking by, he or she would not have seen anything. Only Billy and his camera would have been able to see what they indeed saw. In conclusion, we have a strange and complex object that hovers above Billy's backyard. It measures 7 meters in diameter. It can extend or contract its central core. It radiates orange-colored plasma. It radiates a reddish halo and hides itself from curious people by using a camouflage or cloaking system that only allows Billy Meier to photograph it. Because of all these reasons, we think that this is the most extraordinary photo of a UFO ever taken. You can find more details about this analysis in the book They Are Here, along with other investigations of many photos that Meier took, and the video of the UFO that danced around a tree in 1977.